Hello, everyone. Good evening. How are we all doing today? Okay, so we have our guest in here. We have our guest already here. Let me put that in. Oh no, she's off. How are we doing? Hope we are all doing well. Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome to our live. Yay! Good evening, ma'am.
Hello, can you see me?
Y-
Okay.
Yes, I can. Good evening, ma.
How are you?
I'm so sorry. I'm
Yeah,
fine, thank you, ma. Hope you're
yeah,
doing well. I'm so sorry for all the hustle.
I'm doing well. The only thing is that I have another appointment, so I will be able to stay like 30 minutes
Oh,
or 35 minutes, to go to my next appointment because I'm actually driving there, so I need driving time.
oh, yes. Okay,
Yes,
let's hurry up then.
yes.
All right, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really happy. I'm really honored to have you on my channel today. It's really an honor. God bless you, ma.
You're welcome.
Okay, yes. So without further ado, today we have a relationship coach on the channel.
Mhm.
Yay! So she has been married for I think 35 years. Correct me,
Yes,
ma. Am I
yes,
right?
yes.
35 years. So she has loads of experience that she would like to share with us, with the audience. And I'm sure
Mhm.
that we are all eager to learn from this wonderful, beautiful woman right here. So without us doing so much, I have a short biography of her on my channel, so you can actually just go through it. She is a relationship coach, or let me just briefly do that um without so this Christine Vandal Wachuku, am I right?
Vidal.
Did I pronounce that right?
Vidal-Wachuku.
Vidal Wachuku. She is a
Yes.
Gbagyi woman and was born in Keffi, Nigeria. She grew up in Kaduna State, and she spent most of her holidays in Karu, Abuja, which is her hometown. She obtained her law degree from Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, in the year 1985 and was called to Nigerian Bar in 1986. In 2008, she obtained a master's degree in law from the University of Jos, Nigeria. In 1986 to 87, Christine served her country through the compulsory national youth service in Nigeria's southeast, where she met and fell in love with Vidal Ndubuisi Wachuku. I'm so
Okay.
sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrongly.
Yes. The way to get
So
the
she's
vital is to say like vital when something is vital. So instead of the
okay,
T,
Vidal.
the D, vital. Yes.
Vidal. Okay.
Yes.
She's currently a registered nurse, and she's a certified precision nutrition coach, a licensed financial professional. Christine is also a courtship relationship coach, an instructor, and runs an online courtship academy. They have three beautiful daughters and a hardworking son-in-law and two amazing grandsons. Amazing. She loves traveling, she loves food, and she loves trying out new recipes from other cultures, which is really amazing. She and her husband live in Singware. I can't pronounce
Saginaw.
this really.
Saginaw.
Yes.
Saginaw,
All right.
Texas.
Saginaw, Texas, USA.
Yes.
Thank you so
Yes.
much for being on my channel. I'm really happy. You can see from my face, I'm really excited.
I'm happy to be here
Thank
too.
you. Thank
Yes.
you so much. So One thing that I'm so eager to find out is how were you able to meet your husband?
All right.
Because I'm Gbagyi by tribe as well,
Okay.
and I have the notion of most parents usually want their children to get married to their tribal person. They feel like you getting married outside of your community or your tribe is not, they don't like that. They don't appreciate the fact that you go out go out and then get married to someone else when you have so many guys in your in your tribe that you can actually pick and get married to. So why did you get married to someone from another tribe, and how did you go? Did your parents accept that? Please let's just gist us about that. Let's get to.
Well, I think briefly I will say that it's sad that up till today, as you put it, that most of our parents will say no to our choice of where we want to get married to. So it was the same back then. That was I met my husband in 1986 during my youth
Oh.
service. And when I went for my youth service, I wasn't actually looking for who I was going to marry. I just went to do my youth service, actually.
Mm.
And then I met this guy, and I had told myself that I was never going to marry an Igbo person for sure. If there was one thing I was sure about, was that I wasn't going to marry an Igbo person because of the notion
Mm.
we have been given growing up. We felt Igbo
Yeah.
people were not straightforward, or they will give them an inch and they will go a mile. They were so full of themselves. So I was just sure that I wasn't going to have anything to do with an Igbo man. But eventually, when I met my husband, which my copper friend, um, Ibrahim, introduced me to him because he found the graduate fellowship. That's Ibrahim, my friend. So while we're doing youth service, he called me and said, "Oh, I found a fellowship where we can be going, to have fellowship with other Christians." So I said, "Oh, fine." So he took me there and introduced me to my husband, who was also a lawyer, but he was an older lawyer than I was. So
Mm.
he introduced me to him, and I was like, okay. But before then, my husband had seen me contributing during the Bible study, and he had already told himself that this was the kind of wife he would want. So
What?
by the time Ibrahim
Interesting.
introduced us, he was so sure that I was going to be his wife, even though I didn't know that by that time. So by the time I prayed, it just started coming in my spirit that this man wanted to marry me. So even before he asked, I started tabling it before God, and I knew that, okay, I don't have problem because I want to marry somebody that is after the heart of God, a fellow
Mm.
Christian. I don't want to be unequally yoked. So I said, okay, I could do it because I felt convicted in my spirit, but I knew my parents wouldn't agree. And I told him that. And immediately I told him that I'm okay with it, but I don't know if he will be able to weather the storm. And he said, oh, he
Mm.
was ready to climb 7 mountains and, swim through 7 oceans to get me. So that was
Oh,
how our
awesome.
journey started. And of course, he went through hell just to get me. My parents refused. There was nothing we didn't do to plead. We brought so
Wow.
many people to talk with them. Even his auntie, that was, I think she was she a brigadier general or something by that time in the National Military Hospital? She came to see my mom. She knelt down, pleaded. My mom refused. Just so many stuff that we went through. But I have all that documented in my book, Breaking Barriers. So I
Yeah.
told the whole story and what happened. And eventually, by the time I had to marry without my parents' consent because they didn't want to hear anything about it anyway. So eventually, when we had done all the begging, the pleading, brought so many people and they still didn't agree, we went ahead with the marriage. And then it was, then my husband kept going to persuade them and make them see reason. And it was about 3 years and some months before they finally
Wow.
agreed. Yes. So
Wow.
I'm just saying this in brief. If anyone is
Yes.
interested in knowing more, you
Go
can
and
get
get
my
the
book,
book.
Barriers.
Exactly. Just go and get the book. It's there. There are lots of information
Yes,
that you will pick out from there. Thank you very much for
exactly.
sharing with us.
Hmm.
Ma'am, would you say that you were ready for marriage as at the time you got married? And how old were
Yes,
you when you got married?
I was 23 plus when I got married, but
Okay.
I felt I was prepared for marriage because one, I had read a lot of books on marriage. I knew what I wanted in marriage, and I had idea of the kind of things that I should focus on to get the kind of marriage that I wanted. So to me, I felt I was prepared for marriage.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Um, would you say most women or most people say that the first 5 years of marriage can be very challenging? Would you say yours was also challenging? And could you share with us what was the most challenging year in your marriage? Has been your
Yes,
challenging year in your marriage?
yes, the first 5 years were challenging, of course, because there are some things that even if you have an idea of where what you want and where you're going, when you're actually in it, you find some things will crop up that you have to consider and see the way you want to move along with those things. For me, one of the major challenges I had was sex, because I wasn't somebody by the time I went into marriage. For me, I noticed that sex wasn't really my thing. There are people that are so crazy about sex, and they
Yes,
go for it and
exactly.
they enjoy it and they can give their all to have it. I wasn't that kind of person. So I guess maybe my upbringing, in terms of what we are told, that's what I believe. Looking
Hmm.
back, that's what I see, that I have inhibition with sex because of my upbringing. When you're told every time, we are brought up to see parts of our body, especially our private parts, as being bad or something like that, and then sex
Hmm.
is meant for men. You're not supposed to really enjoy it. So when you grow in that kind of environment, you kind of feel constrained, kind of to feel like, oh, I don't want to do this because maybe it's prostitutes that do that or something. So you feel you're kind of hindered in allowing yourself really enjoy what it should be. So for me, that was the one of the things that I found challenging. And I remember that was one of the first things that made me leave my marriage. Like a few months
Hmm.
after we got married, I just carried my things because my husband was like, every time he wants sex, like he wouldn't mind every day. And I was like, nope. And then he said, it's not all this cleaning. I could clean the house because I didn't have a job, that I was still looking for a job.
Okay.
So I was fully at home. So you say it's not all this cleaning the house, making it nice, cooking food. It is more than that, oh. So I was just tired of the thing, and I just packed I didn't pack my things, but I just left before he came back from work. I went to our senior friend's house, but I didn't tell him where I was going. So of course he had high jump by the time he came back, and so I wasn't there. Remember, my parents didn't consent to our marriage,
Yeah,
and
so you
he was
couldn't
like,
go back
where would
there.
I have gone to? He was so worried and concerned. He went to our senior friend, but I told them not to tell him I was there. So they just kind of said, oh, maybe look for her in other places. And then eventually he came back really looking worried that he couldn't find me. And then they had to tell him I was there and called me. So
Wow.
they talked with us. So we had to go back to the drawing board and try to find something that was suitable and could work for us, where to do the
Hmm.
compromising and all that. And I had to step up in that. So that was one of the things that I will say that I grappled with. But apart from that, most of the other things will be in terms of when we had disagreements, to try to find a way to resolve our disagreements as soon as possible and not to let it get out of hand or bring in third parties. Try as much as possible to resolve our issues.
Hmm.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So there are two things that you have mentioned that I would like to ask. once again. So you mentioned that based from the culture, the background you had, it kind of influenced your um, how you see sex or how you perceive sex. So
Yes.
how were you able to come out from that notion? How are you able to change? How are you able to start accepting the fact that sex is it's something that should be practiced now that you're married, you're no longer single? And
Mm-hmm.
then how were you able to now get to start enjoying sex and not be, because I know up till now there are still some people that still feel like men are the ones that enjoy sex, not the other way around. So how,
Yes.
what would you say about that?
I think it's just a thing of the mind. It really took me
Okay.
a long time. I don't want to downplay it. It took me a very long time to really overcome. And even now, I will not say, oh, I've overcome it or something like
Totally.
that. It's something because it's like entrenched in you. So, what
Hmm.
I've noticed for myself is that um, during the act itself, the fact that you're not able to relax and let yourself go. So those are the kind of things that I try to tell myself, like,
Hmm.
okay, relax. There's nothing wrong with what you're doing. There's nothing wrong with, you enjoying sex. Just relax your body and let it be. Because as long as you're not relaxed, you find that no matter how you're touched or whatever, you're not going to get any pleasure from it because you're
Exactly.
holding your body.
Exactly.
Yes. So that is one thing I've tried to work on myself, work on my mind to see that I need to relax as much as is
Hmm.
possible. And for me to know that
And it's very important.
exactly, and that men, it's part of the thing that they enjoy doing. Men are moved for this. There was a time I told my husband actually that he could go and have his sex outside. I beg, leave me, Joe, and all that. In my young mind,
Ah.
to me, I was just like, I better just go. But he was like, he's
Oh
not going
my
to go
goodness.
anywhere. That it is me and him, and he never married for him to go outside.
Interesting.
It's me he wants. So I had to sit down and come to terms with it and keep working on my psychology to make myself relax and try to read materials, things that will give me more ideas. And the more I read the Bible, the more I saw just like Songs of Solomon. You will see it talks about love, it talks about sex and all that in the book of Solomon. So those are the things that I try to work on, and I keep trying to work on them even till this day, to know that it is part of my responsibilities that I have as a wife in my home.
Hmm. Interesting. We just got frozen.
Yes,
Hello,
I
mom.
can see. Yes.
Okay. Okay. You just got froze. I
Okay.
couldn't hear what you were saying at the point.
Oh, okay. I said, I don't know if you heard the part I said, the scriptures reading from the book of Songs of Solomon and all that, which talks
Okay.
about sex and
Oh
all
my
that. So
goodness.
it helps us. Your light has gone.
Yes.
Well, maybe you can get a candle or something, but at least you can still hear me, and I think your audience can still
Yes, I
hear
can.
me. Yes. So the
Yes.
Songs of Solomon, which is a book that talks about sex and all that. So it helped as I read more about it, it helped to kind of work on my psyche, to
Hmm.
relax, which is the most important thing. That is the principal thing I've noticed, the inability to relax one's body during it. It will make you always feel that you don't enjoy it. And because you don't enjoy it, you don't want to participate in it. And I think that biggest mind block
Yes.
is that thing that we feel that it's only men that should enjoy sex. Is stamped into our brain,
Hmm.
which is wrong.
That's right. Thank you very much, ma'am. Interesting. Thank you very much. Okay, so Yes, ma'am. Seems you were saying something.
No. Go ahead. No.
Okay. All right. So, okay. So I was saying, when you started having children, I want to believe that by then you have gotten a job. Am I right?
Yes. Yes.
So how are you able to balance being a career woman and taking care of your children? And how many did you have as at then?
You mean when I started my job? When I started my job, of
Yes.
course, the children started coming. We waited 1 year before we had our
Oh
first
goodness, what's this
child.
NEPA?
We waited 1 year before we had our first child because we didn't want to be
Okay.
saddled with the responsibility of the child in the first year. We wanted to get to understand ourselves. As I said, most of these things, I have it in my book, Breaking Barriers. So we wanted to wait
Hmm.
and understand ourselves before we begin having children. So we waited 1 year. So by the time we started having children now, of course, I went the normal way of, trying to get house helps that will be, because those are some of the things we discussed during our courtship. They are the questions I asked my husband. We talked about, are we going to have a house help? Are we not going to have a house help? How will we relate with the house help in our home? What are his own ideas of having a house help and how the house help should be treated? So of course we agreed on that. So we started having house helps to help. But eventually, by the time I think my last child was just a few years old, we decided we didn't want this house help stress anymore because it was like,
Hmm.
yeah, the wahala was just too much. Not wanting, because we had wanted to integrate them into part of being the family, but we saw that it wasn't really working. It had a lot of ups and downs with it. I don't want to go into that one now. That's another thing altogether.
That's
But
fine.
eventually we went ahead and had none. So from the primary school age, now they were still in primary school, so I didn't have any house help from then going forward, but we had now moved back to Karu. So my parents were there, which was just a walking distance from our home. So, and then we owned a law firm together with my husband, Chris Vidal and Co. in Wuse. So we lived in Karu. So what we do is that before we go to work, we take our children. When they were going to school, those going to school, when then the other we can leave her with my mom or something, or we take them to school, and then when they come back before we return, they come to my parents' house and stay there until we get back from work, and then we pick them home. And then I had the weekends where I will wash their clothes, wash all their clothing at the weekend, do the laundry, everything. And before then, when the little one was still small, I will wash all the diapers. That's the napkin. We had cloth napkin that time. We didn't have disposable one.
Yes.
I had a system in which I soaked all the napkins in bleach water, and then I leave them overnight. When it is like every time the child uses it, I put it there, I put it there, I put it there. Then in
Hmm.
the morning or so, I wash all of them and spread them all out. So I had a lot of napkins that I could use this way. And then I started training them. By the time they got to a few years, I started involving them in kitchen work, like, oh, do this. I have all girls anyway. Then they will
Okay.
help me in the kitchen, oh, do this or do that, pound this for me, or do whatever they can do, or wash or something. And then we started dividing chores for them at home. Like when you wake up, you're responsible for doing this, you're responsible for doing that. And then I started teaching them how to wash their own clothes. So I started from
Hmm.
socks. So when they come back from school, they wash their socks by themselves and spread it out so that they could use it again next time and not allow
The
it
next day.
pile up. And the first time
Hmm.
I did it, they now began, because they used to go to school and they will remove their shoes and trek on the bare ground with the socks. So you can imagine how dirty
Ah.
it will be. So by the time they started doing it, nobody told them
They
not to
wouldn't.
do that. Yep. They stopped doing it because it was difficult for them. Because once they wash anything I ask them to wash their clothes, if they dry it, I will inspect it. If it's not clean, I will take it down and say, wash it again. So that was how I started incorporating them into house chores. And eventually they were able to get the hang of it and even started cooking and all that. So
Wow.
eventually we were able to make do even without the house helps. So basically that's how we did. And even though my husband belonged to Rotary Club, all these other club thing, but at time he picked them from school. When we eventually put them in school in Wuse, he will pick them from school and then take them to his meetings while I go home. Like I may go home before him, and then when he picks them from school, he takes them along to go for his Rotary Club meeting or something, and they will be with him. So almost all the club members knew my children,
Knew
and
them.
my children knew the club members, and always had uncle this, uncle that, and all that. So that was how we were able to incorporate our child rearing age with my own career and everything to manage the situation.
Okay, thank you very much. So I would like to ask, if you had a boy child, would you have also involved the boy child to do all these house chores?
Yes, I would have involved him because I don't believe that there's anything, because these things are just life skills for you to be able to
Yes,
take care of your child. As my mother-in-law says, she trained my own husband to be able to do all these things. I say, no woman should do shakara for you or anything like that. So he knew
exactly.
how to cook, he knew how to do, he even took care of his younger ones when she wasn't there. So
Beautiful.
I would have done the same thing if I had a male child. I would have trained him to be able to cook and take care of himself.
Hmm. All right, thank you for that answer. Because I know there are some people that still has this mentality of this is a man child. He's not
Yeah.
supposed to do all these things. So yes, thank you for putting that out there. So also, as a couple, would you advise that couples have relatives stay in with them in their home?
Okay, that one is part of what we discussed during our courtship. And that is why I
Okay.
have the Courtship Academy, because we show you the kind of questions that you're to ask
As
during courtship, because these are things that cause problem when you eventually get
a
married.
lot.
Yeah, so it is not a one thing that fits. It depends on the couple, because when you discuss it during courtship, you can be able to
Hmm.
say, as a child, this is my position in my family. And because of my position, these are my responsibilities. Like I'm responsible for this, I'm responsible for that. Are you comfortable with it? Because with the responsibility I have, it means this person will have to come and live with us. You understand? Then you
Hmm.
discuss it. Now, if the person comes to live with you, what does it mean? How will you treat them in your home? What will there be rules? What will be the guideline in them living with you? You understand? Like that. And then if it's the man's relative that is coming to stay, will he be able to stand up for you? And who comes first in the home? You know, there are so many things that surround that which you should discuss
Hmm.
during your courtship. When you discuss it during your courtship, it saves you the stress, so that eventually when the person comes, you're able to make sure that you review the situation from time to time, see if it is working, because if it's going outside the guideline, then it is left for the person whose relative it is to call the person to order and say, no, I'm not going to take this or that. For me, we had his younger ones come to stay with us, but my husband was always on point with what we had agreed upon. So anything
Fun.
is like, I won't stand you disrespecting my wife, or this is your role, or this is your position in our home, and you cannot do this, you cannot do this. So he set boundaries, and it wasn't in my
Hmm.
place to tell them the boundaries. It was my husband's place to tell them what the
To tell
boundaries
them.
were, because they were his relatives and all that. So
Hmm.
what we discussed and agreed on during the courtship is what was implemented when they came. And that is why it's important to discuss all these things. And there are so many other things that you ought to discuss during courtship concerning your respective families.
Hmm. Okay, thank you very much. Um, What would you advise someone that is about to get married to someone that has a child? Maybe yes, a child, either the wife or the husband. What would be a,
Again, again, although this will be the last question I will take, I think we could schedule another appointment and
another?
continue again from where we left
That's
off. But let
fine.
me see if I can quickly answer this.
Okay, bye.
Yes, so having a child, if you have a child, this is another thing that you should discuss during courtship. You get? You should discuss
Yes.
it during courtship and agree on what is going to be. Because I know of I have a cousin who got married. She had a child outside wedlock before she got married to this person. And then when she got married, the child never went to live with them. So
Mm.
even though I don't know the details, but just that is obvious to show that it means the man did not really accept like her child coming to stay with them. And then if you're okay with it, fine. You see, there to me, there are no set rules. It depends on what you and your partner agree on. Are you comfortable with it? Not that he's manipulating you. Those are two different things. It's not that the
Mm.
man is manipulating you into doing something you don't want to do. But the issue is you have a child. Will this man accept? But sometimes it may be the man that has a child and not the
Yes.
woman. So how
Yes.
comfortable are you taking care of another woman's child? Will you treat the child fairly? There are so many questions that come up when you're giving the answer, because if you don't feel comfortable, to me, I believe it's safer for you to say no. If you feel that is a deal breaker, it's better to just cut it at that time and don't deceive
Mm.
yourself that, oh, I will see how I will make it work. If it is not gelling with you as a single person and you feel that it has all it you feel you have all that it takes to look after another woman's child properly or another man's child properly, it is better not to even accept going into that relationship in the first instance.
Hmm.
Yes.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Ma.
Okay.
We're going to end this here for today. Thank you
Okay.
for also giving me an opportunity to do this video with you today. And thank you for also rescheduling another appointment with us again. We are really hoping to meet with you again on
All
another
right.
episode of Naomi's channel. Thank you very much. I don't know if you have any parting words that you would like to give us before we go.
Well, all I will say is that the choice of a life partner really depends on you. What you choose is what you get. So you have to
Exactly.
choose wisely to ensure that you enjoy your marriage and not endure it.
Amazing. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, Ma. Thank
All
you.
right.
And I hope that you have a lovely and a beautiful day. Send my regards to your husband.
All right. Thank you so much.
All
You
right.
too. Enjoy.
Thank you so much, Ma. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.